What is up, you guys? We'll see who shows up here. It's Seattle. I don't even want to wear a shirt right now. I guess I'll put one on. Put on a tank top. I wanted to do a live to address a couple of questions that have been coming up recently, and so hopefully this will be helpful for people. The first question is about salt. So I need to do this salt post for you guys, but salt is super important in ketosis and carnivore diets, which are inherently ketotic. So the idea with salt is that when you are fasting, you have natriuresis, which means your body wastes salt. So there is something called the natriuresis of fasting. So if you are fasting or in ketosis or doing a carnivore diet, you're going to be wasting salt. I don't think we fully understand why this happens or why the body wastes salt in fasting or ketogenic states, but it does. So it wastes sodium, right? It wastes sodium. Now, this increases our sodium requirements. If we don't get enough sodium in fasting, ketogenic, or carnivore diets, what happens? We push our cortisol up. And this can happen when you're not fasting as well. If you look at people, diabetics or people with heart failure who severely restrict salt, they get insulin resistant. So you can make yourself insulin resistant by not eating enough sodium. And people who are super bad into heart failure often get their sodium levels limited by their physician, and they get insulin resistant. And the reason they get insulin resistant is because the cortisol goes through the roof, right? Cortisol goes through the roof. So your body is going to push cortisol, and it is going to make that go very high if you don't get enough salt. How much salt do you need? I would say that most people probably will do best with about 10 grams of salt a day, which is only 5 to 6 grams of sodium. But 10 grams of salt, and I like Redmond sea salt. I've talked about why in the past, but I like because it's an inland salt, so it's less microplastics, doesn't have as many problematic things that come from the sea. Microplastics, maybe radiation, maybe contamination, because it's inland. It's just an inland salt deposit from Utah. So I use at least probably 10 grams of salt a day. And everyone can handle that. Your kidneys can handle that much salt. It's really going to benefit you markedly. The other thing that happens if you don't get enough sodium in your diet is that your body wastes potassium. So I think this is one of the main problems when people are getting cramps, is that they're not getting enough sodium and they're wasting potassium because it's a sodium-potassium exchanger in the kidneys. In order to hold on to sodium, which is the primary nutrient or the primary mineral that your body wants in that state, you're going to waste potassium. You're going to send it out the other side. So people get potassium deficient on carnivore diets. So this is a big problem that people are having, is I don't think people are doing enough salt. And so I think that's really important to think about where your sodium is. If you want to get really granular about it, you can actually measure urinary sodium, you can measure urinary potassium, but you don't want to be wasting, a ton of sodium in your urine. And if you're not wasting sodium in your urine, then that's a better thing. You want to be getting enough sodium in your diet. So I think that for most people, one of the key things they can do is get more salt. And I like Redmond sea salt. So 1 teaspoon is about 5 grams of salt. So I would say at least 2 teaspoons a day of sodium chloride, so sea salt. And I said I like Redmond sea salt because it's an inland deposit, no microplastics. So 2 teaspoons a day at least for most people. And that is going to make a huge difference. So if you don't get enough sodium, your body is going to push cortisol up, which is going to affect hormones. If people have issues, if women have hormonal instability on keto or carnivore, it's probably the salt. Their cortisol is going up because they're not eating enough salt. And then also, the men can have issues, cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. So salt is like the easiest fix, right? It's just such a simple thing. Make sure you're getting enough salt. I think 10 grams a day probably is where most people need to be, which is about 5 grams of sodium. So 10 grams of sodium chloride is only 5 grams of sodium. I'm going to post a study that shows a really cool graph that goes like this in terms of survival. And you go from low salt to high salt, and basically the survival goes, the longevity improves, and the best longevity is around 5 grams per day, and then it just kind of levels off and rises slightly past 5 grams a day of sodium, which is 10 grams of salt per day at least. The other thing I want to talk about is dry fasting. You guys, there is no evidence that dry fasting is better for humans than wet fasting, than water fasting. When you burn fat, you will make water out of that fat, yes, but you don't need to dry fast. I hear Cole Robinson, the snake diet guy, talk about dry fasting, and other people say that dry fasting is better than wet fasting with water. There's no science to back this up, and it's bad for your kidneys to limit that much water. You don't want to get dehydrated. I sent Michaela a message today. Michaela's doing a dry fast, and I was like, Michaela, there's no evidence that dry fasting is better than water fasting. Water fasting is a much safer way to do it. We need autophagy, but dry fasting is not going to speed that up at all. And water fasting is not going to slow down autophagy. The amount of molecular water you make doesn't have anything to do with whether you're dry fasting or water fasting. So I just want people to realize that dry fasting is not safe. It's not a good thing, and there's no scientific evidence that it increases autophagy in any way, shape, or form. It's a fad, and we shouldn't be doing it. You can just do water on a fast, and it's not going to slow down autophagy or fat loss. Water fasting is a much safer way to do a fast, okay? So that's really important. There is no such thing as increased autophagy on dry fasting. You can do a water fast. It's totally fine. So I think somebody asked the question, what about bloat with high salt? You shouldn't get bloating with high salt. If people are having salt retention or bloating, there's something else going on, and there's another issue. But most people, if your kidneys work well, then you should get rid of the salt just fine. Somebody said they could only do a 72 dry fast. I would not do any dry fasting. Use water. In terms of electrolytes, I do supplement magnesium, sodium, potassium, and calcium. So I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I think I try and get at least 10 grams of sodium a day. I will bring sodium. I'll bring salt with me to the gym. I'll have a little bit of sodium with water before I work out to increase the blood volume. And then I'll also do magnesium, about 400 milligrams a day. I'll do potassium, about a gram a day of potassium. And then I'll do calcium, which I've talked about in the past. I don't think carnivores are getting enough calcium, and I'll do calcium with an eggshell, about a gram or two a day. I think mineral water is fine for fasting. Carbonated water is fine. Thoughts on Sammy supplementation? No, I don't think Sammy is a good thing. That's a whole different subject. I have videos on YouTube. I have Paul Saladino MD is my YouTube channel. Check it out. Is fasting beneficial if you are not keto? Of course, yeah. Fasting, most people, if they're not keto or in ketosis, will fast and they'll get into ketosis. But I think if you want to be in ketosis more, you can just have a ketogenic diet. What brand of suet? You can use dry. Suet is technically kidney fat. So there's tallow, which technically is rendered fat, which I don't like as much as the real thing, which I think is just fat. So I would just get trimmings from your butcher or ask them for suet. So I would just talk to your butcher about that. You could possibly get too much sodium, but at 10 grams of sodium a day, you're not going to have any problems with sodium. Is potassium chloride better than citrate? It depends what you're doing. I don't think that there's it depends if you want the citrate ion. Some people feel like citrate is beneficial for oxalate dumping. I think if you want to use potassium citrate, it's probably fine. I don't think potassium chloride is significantly better than citrate. It just depends what you want to use the potassium for. Some people would find potassium citrate to be better. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a San Diego carnivore army as well. Calcium from eggshells, yeah. I just crunch on them, and I try and get the best eggs that I can, because the problem is this. So I think carnivores need calcium. I know we need calcium. Humans need calcium. But we don't get enough calcium from meat or eggs. They're very small amounts. And maybe we increase the amount of calcium that we absorb when we're on a high-protein diet, but we're not going to get enough in our diet. And I fear that people are going to be calcium negative, and their PTH, the parathyroid hormone, is going to rise. And that's not a good thing. So I usually get calcium from eggshells or bone meal. The problem with bone meal is that we've kind of polluted the environment so much that the bone meal, even the best bone meals, can have some lead in them. And so I'm really, really careful if I'm going to do bone meal about the lead content in that bone meal and knowing how much that is and following my lead levels. I'll talk more about lead levels in the blood when I do my podcast with Tommy Wood, who is a smart cookie. But you really want your lead levels in your blood, just in the serum, to be below 2. If your lead is above 2, you got something going on. You don't want that. So I've been trying to experiment with calcium from eggshells, maybe a little bit less lead in those than bone meal. If you can get a really good bone meal that has really, really small amount of lead, that's great. Make sure you check your blood lead levels. The other thing is calcium in eggshells is going to have some of those trace minerals as well. The problem with eggshells, there's no perfect thing, is that they might have more fluoride. Why do they have more fluoride? Well, because the chickens drink water with fluoride in it. It kind of sucks, right? But the calcium in the eggshell usually prevents accumulation of the fluoride from the egg. From the eggshell. So I think that eggshells are probably the cleanest way to get the calcium. If you can get really good bone meal, check your lead levels, it's probably fine. Best diet for Hashimoto's, I think it's a carnivore diet. I really do. I think that a nose-to-tail carnivore diet. Cream of tartar for potassium, I would just use potassium chloride or potassium citrate. Somebody likes eggshells. 100% carnivore, getting rosy cheeks. If I add broccoli, it goes away. Is that dehydration? I don't know. That's weird. I don't think broccoli's magical. Calcium from eggshells. Not a whole lot of calcium in eggs. Do I have a list of foods and condiments or vitamins? I'll need to start carnivore. If you check out my podcast, it'll help. Yeah. I mean, I did a carnivore diet pyramid a little while ago. It's on my Instagram feed. That'll help. And look at my YouTube. That'll help. 2 months into carnivore, my blood pressure has been higher than normal. Never had high blood pressure. Are you getting enough salt? Because if you are not getting enough salt, your blood pressure could rise. And then I have to know how you're doing carnivore, if you're doing nose to tail and other things. I also wonder about electrolytes. Are you getting enough magnesium, enough potassium? But your blood pressure should not rise on carnivore. There's something going on. Let me go to the front here because I skipped over a bunch of questions in the beginning. This is just a short one tonight, guys. So I wanted to talk about dry fasting, which I talked about. That is not beneficial. Do not do that. He's a Clark Kent. Do not dry fast. Use water. There's no benefit to dry fasting relative to water fasting. Why so much salt? I just talked about that because you want to make sure you're getting enough sodium. I like Redmond sea salt. Redmond real salt. How many tablespoons of 10 grams? We talked about that. Acetylmethionine. I'll talk about that really carefully, really briefly. Sammy is methylation. I'll do a whole live about MTHFR. I think taking Sammy is going to short circuit the folate cycle. It's going to push methyl groups too far along the folate cycle. You don't want methyl groups into SAMe. You want your body to make the right amount of SAMe. And I think the key for methylation and MTHFR is getting enough riboflavin. How do you get enough riboflavin? You eat liver. You have to eat nose to tail. Like, riboflavin is in liver. There's not enough riboflavin in muscle meat. So if we're only eating muscles, we're going to get riboflavin deficient and the folate cycle is going to get messed up. I mean, I love Sean. He's a friend of mine. But look, you got to eat liver, or you got to know what nutrients you're missing from liver. Riboflavin is a big one. Carnivore is totally safe in the long term. I think carnivore is the evolutionary baseline diet for humans. Somebody bought liver today. They joined the liver gang. That's amazing. Welcome to the liver gang. I have been loving eating more liver recently. I'll post about this in the future. I've seen studies that suggest that the absorption of vitamin A from real liver is very different than supplements. I would never supplement a patient with vitamin A palmitate in a supplement. Never do that. I would just get the vitamin A from liver. And I think when you do that, it's totally safe and it's really hard to get too much vitamin A. So I don't worry about liver. I've been eating 4 to 6 ounces a day and I'm loving it. So I think you could eat that much. I think it's good to get that much. Somebody says to get sodium and PA. That phosphorus, I'll eat 8 cups of leafy greens. That's not a good idea. I disagree with that. I think that's a great way to get lots of toxins and oxalates and other things which are not going to make your gut super happy. But you do you. High liver enzymes on keto, what could it be? Lots of things could happen in there. I'd have to know the rest of the labs. You guys, I do see patients. If you want to do a consult with me, I'll actually put on a real shirt. And it's Paul Saladino, MD @gmail.com. Somebody said, what about water retention and bloat? Again, I don't think that'll ever be a problem for someone. If you're getting that with sodium, there's something else going on, and potentially the hormones are out of whack for another reason. It's not because of the salt. Your kidneys should get rid of it. Would I supplement potassium? Yeah, I think potassium is beneficial. Again, you will even get more potassium deficient if you're sodium deficient because of the exchanger in the kidney. What kind of magnesium? I do liquid magnesium. I like Megamag from Trace Minerals or magnesium glycinate. But you got to be careful with supplements because of all the binders in the supplements. And I don't like titanium dioxide or silicon dioxide. This stuff is garbage. Probably going to be partnering soon with a supplement company, and we will be making electrolytes, hopefully, that'll be cleaner than most of the stuff that's out there. The sucralose, not a fan of sucralose. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Canned tuna as a source of protein and fat. 2 thumbs down. High in mercury. You do not want more mercury in your body. It's BPA in the lining of the can. My podcast with Anthony J just got released. You guys check it out on iTunes, Fundamental Health with Paul Saladino, MD. That's me. And I'm going to post about it on Instagram, let people know. But that podcast just dropped. We talked about estrogens in cans. Canned tuna is bad news. Your mercury is going to go sky high. Podcast with Dom DeAugustino is coming out later this summer. He had to reschedule because he's doing the Nemo mission, so hopefully we're going to record in July, but we're working on it. Would I recommend a carnivore diet to someone who feels great on a high-carb diet, has no medical problems? I think, you got to do you, but here's what I think. I think you could be even better on a carnivore diet. So it's hard to say if you feel great. It's hard to say there's any change, but I would be curious. I think you would feel better, and I would love to see that experiment. So if you do it, let me know. Eggshell from egg ducks? Eggshells from ducks, yeah, duck eggshells. Do I have a good supplement for calcium and bone meal? I use eggshells like I was talking about. If you're doing bone meal, you got to make sure it's really clean. Is all fish roe basically equal, or at least relatively equal? Or is it worth breaking the bank for salmon roe? Haha, cheers. I think that basically fish roe is fish roe, and that you're going to be fine with roe as long as it's wild roe and clean, doesn't have preservatives. I don't think the source is that important. I think it's all going to be pretty nutritious. Eating the whole egg. Okay, nice. mTOR on carnivore. Check out the podcast I did with Peak Human, Brian Sanders, and check out, I did this with Carnivore Cast. I'm going to do another one with Carnivore Cast later this week. Talked about mTOR a bunch there. It's not a concern. Insulin is the main trigger of mTOR. Leucine triggers it a little bit, but you want that. Can I put a list of supplements that I suggest? The supplements I suggest, you guys ready for this? Egg yolks, liver, that's it. They're not even supplements. I don't take any supplements right now, you guys, like zero. Maybe you could consider magnesium, sodium, potassium, and calcium to be supplements. So I take magnesium in a liquid form. I take potassium chloride from bulk supplements. I take sodium from Redmond sea salt, and I take calcium from eggshells. That's it. And then I do egg yolks, liver. I don't think you need any more supplements than that on carnivore. How do I make sure I get enough fiber on carnivore? Surely you're joking. We don't need any fiber on carnivore. It's mostly dangerous. Hyperaldosteronism from hyponatremia cause high blood pressure, good response. Yeah, it totally could. I mean, if your blood pressure went sky high on carnivore, again, I'm thinking that, you were doing 2 tablespoons of salt and your blood pressure went sky high. Something else going on there. I'm trying, man. It says Paul is all over the place. Videos, podcasts, etc. I'm trying. I think if you're going to do raw liver, you just got to make sure it's good source. Yeah, good source liver. Freeze it before. I really like the raw liver. Again, it's super controversial. This is like too hot for television to say that you can eat raw liver as a doctor, so don't do that. I can't officially recommend that as a physician, but I think it's safe and I do it. Frozen liver gang, what's up? Is it okay, if I don't like liver, to take a good liver supplement? Yes, the problem with that is that you're just going to have a hard time getting enough liver doing that. I like the supplement special supplements a lot, but it's hard to get enough. Buffalo liver and heart, nice. What time of day and how much protein to eat to maximize muscle protein synthesis? I think just whenever you want. Throughout the day, I like doing time-restricted feeding. Why eating raw liver instead of cooked? I think that it's just, I like the taste more, and I think you're going to preserve some of the nutrients. If you like cooked liver, do that. It's going to be way better than nothing. Liverwurst is great, but a lot of the liverwursts out there are junky, and they have bad spices in them. Grain-fed liver is disgusting. Probably has some benefit, though. Yeah, I mean, if you can only get grain-fed liver, do what you got to do. To do a consult, what kind of labs should we get beforehand? I mean, if you guys want to do consults, I'm happy to order labs for you. In the consult we can see, but generally there's a long list of blood work. I've posted about this in the past on my Instagram. I mean, I would want to see inflammatory markers, fasting insulin, lipids, thyroid, sex hormones, PTH, cortisol, C-peptide, CBC, CMP. It's a big list. Glad you guys are digging it. The last time you bought liver, I let it sit in the fridge for a few days after purchase and it smelled odd. Not like the funky cheese I'm used to as a safe to eat. Sounds like you made high liver. So you may not want to do that. I mean, you could try. I will try and save this live if I can. Restrictive diet, past 2 years, 2 months into carnivore, eating 3 times a day, no gallbladder, history of ovarian cyst, 6 gram weight gain so far. Feel bloat and hunger a lot. When does the hunger, weight typically fall? I don't know. I'd have to look at more details. I'm sorry I can't really answer that. Make sure you're getting enough salt. Make sure you're getting enough electrolytes. You shouldn't really be gaining weight. There's something going on there. But if you've had a restrictive diet the past 2 years, maybe your body is kind of normalizing. Long-term carnivore and heart disease. No evidence. That's such a misconception. We've been eating meat for 2 million years. It doesn't cause heart disease. All the studies that would link meat and heart disease are epidemiology. I should clarify, they're non-experimental epidemiology. They're observational epidemiology. In terms of interventional stuff, there's no evidence that saturated fat or red meat is in any way, shape, or form bad for your heart. Put up a list of supplements I suggest. I could do that. What's your take on exogenous ketone salts? No need. Why? Why do you need them? I don't think they're having really any benefit. But what's up, Joe? Everybody go look at Joe's profile. Joe Tarina, right here. Tarina's Tarena. We did a little thing. I put his story up on my feed. It's an amazing story. I don't think we need exogenous ketone salts. I don't really think they have a benefit. Why not just take a calcium supplement? Because they have binders, titanium dioxide, silicon dioxide, magnesium stearate, that kind of stuff. I'd rather just get it from an eggshell. Have a good liver supplement, since I said so. Like liver, yeah, see, that's the thing. It's going to be so hard. Like I was talking about, I'm eating 4 to 6 ounces of liver a day right now. So I feel best at that. You're going to have to eat the whole bottle per day. Yeah, I agree. Carnivore diet won't cause heart disease. Let's see here. Somebody's crashed on energy when it comes to soccer. I've had to add in some carbs pre and post workout. Any advice? So I posted about this a little bit. I think keto adaptation takes 3 to 4 weeks. And once you get keto adapted, you won't have any problems. I don't think. I haven't had any problems with endurance exercise. I mean, I surf for like 3 hours. No problem. I hit the punching bag. But it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to get to keto adapted. That's what's been shown by Finney and Volek's group. So make sure you're getting enough salt and give yourself 3 to 4 weeks. Canned chunk light tuna in moderation is okay. Skipjack and albacore. Man, I'm just not a fan. Check your mercury. Eat more fat and salt. Yeah, I would agree with that. Canned sardines, okay. They're not bad. They're not bad. They're in oil, though, a lot of times, and that oil is going to transmit the BPA from the lining of the can. Go check out the podcast I did with Anthony J. It's on fundamental health with me. It's on iTunes. I'm going to post about it soon, but it's up. It's out. It's live. Keto and carnivore diets lowering carbon dioxide in the body. I've never heard of that. I don't think it's a problem. I mean, are you talking about the respiratory quotient? That's just how we metabolize fat. How many eggshells a day? About 1. I mean, I'm not a fan of alcohol. I think it's pretty much net negative, you guys. Somebody's asking about alcohol and carnivore. Somebody says keratosis pilaris has gotten worse on carnivore. Any idea? Getting a pound of liver a week? Usually, KP, keratosis pilaris, is a vitamin A deficiency, so that is unusual. I'd have to think about that one. What's wrong with just calcium supplement rather than eggshells? I answered that one. How do you eat eggshells? You put them in your mouth and you chew like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I don't drink alcohol. Coffee. Do you guys want to hear about coffee? All right, I'll do this and then I'll wrap it up for tonight. I've talked about coffee a lot. So coffee is a roasted seed. As I've talked about on podcasts, seeds are they're the most defended parts of plants. They're plant babies. When you roast a plant seed, you're also making acrylamide. So anytime we cook something, basically we're making things that are not good for humans. We like the taste, whether it's toast or a croissant or a roasted chocolate or coffee or a seared steak with like blackened stuff on it. We like the taste, but that's all stuff that's not good for humans. It's advanced glycation end products, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, heterocyclic amines, acrylamide. When you roast coffee, you make acrylamide. Acrylamide is a known carcinogen, so you're basically eating burnt roasted bean extracts. Acrylamide by itself is not good. This is a carcinogen. This is not beneficial for humans. Caffeine, not beneficial for humans. Caffeine is a phytoalexin. So caffeine is something that plants produce as a defense mechanism. There is a lethal dose of coffee. It is a nootropic in the short term, but it's long-term going to harm you. It's going to totally change sleep patterns, even early in the day. It's going to change your sleep pattern. It's going to decrease restful sleep. Then there's all the mold toxins on coffee, which are pretty hard to get rid of. And you maybe could try Bulletproof or Ben Greenfield's or Purity. But even with those, they're going to have acrylamide and they're going to have caffeic acid and chlorogenic acid, which are the polyphenols. And those have been shown to break DNA. Now look, it's kind of the same thing as sulforaphane. If you focus on the DNA damage aspect of coffee, you can say, hey, coffee decreases DNA damage. Well, maybe because it makes more glutathione, just like sulforaphane from broccoli sprouts makes more glutathione. But that is one benefit. The coffee companies never show you the other places in the body where those polyphenols are harmful. So this is my thesis, that these plant molecules are different than what humans need, and the supplement companies, the manufacturers, just want to focus on the place where it's good. They won't tell you about the other stuff where it's harmful. I really strongly believe caffeic acid and chlorogenic acid are hurting you long term. They are wreaking havoc in other parts of the body. Coffee is a $20 billion industry, second only to oil. They have huge amount of money put into making you think it's good for you. It's not good for you. It's just not good for you. Caffeic acid, chlorogenic acid, harmful polyphenols. Just like sulforaphane goes and messes with your thyroid, there are places in the body that caffeic acid and chlorogenic acid are creating harm. So I think most people that give up coffee feel better. People might like the taste, that's fine, you do you. But look, it's not good for you. Hopefully that helps. I'll do a full post on it soon. All right, you guys, I'm going to jump out of here pretty soon. I got to get ready. I'm doing a podcast tonight with Paul Mason. We're going to talk about lectins, and I'm working on a chapter in my book on oxalates. That is interesting. Somebody said they looked up egg white micronutrients, and they say there's a lot of riboflavin and selenium along with a good bit of glycine. I'm not a fan of egg whites because a lot of times they're immunogenic for people, but if it doesn't bother you, then you can eat them. How do you consume eggshells properly? Since I don't like liver, is it okay to have a good supplement? So I talked about that one a few times. I just eat the eggshells, and I think it's hard to get enough of the liver when you do the supplements, but it's better than nothing. Jerry says, as a nutritionist, it's scary to tell folks to eat raw liver. I think we don't have to tell people that, but it's good. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll do one or two more questions, and then I'll rock out of here. Can I order labs for a Canadian? Oh, it's tricky to order labs in Canada across the border. Probably not. We could try. What do I think about probiotics? Man, I'm just not convinced they're beneficial. They don't take up residence in the gut. They're just there, and they may affect the gut in the short term, but then when you stop taking them, they don't do anything. So that doesn't seem like it has any real benefit to me. That we're missing something with probiotics. We're missing something. I don't think there's a real need for probiotics in humans. I don't take any. I don't find benefit. I think potentially a little bit of dirt here and there is a good thing, but I just don't think that humans need probiotics, and I'm soundly not convinced that they're beneficial for humans. I think a lot of times they're dangerous. There are studies which are debated. There are studies which say they might delay return to normal gut flora. I think they're a huge hype machine. They're not even going to colonize your gut. Everybody agrees with that. All right, last question. What is a good fasting glucose? Between 70 and 85. Above that, probably not so good. So I see a lot of carnivores in whom, 70 to 90 maybe, 75 to 90, let's say that. I see a lot of carnivores in whom the fasting glucose is a little higher than that, and I always wonder about protein to fat ratios, and I'll talk about that more. But I think that I haven't totally decided on this, but I do wonder about that fasting glucose that's above 90 in carnivores who are eating a ton of steak and not getting a ton of fat. It goes back to that fat to protein macro. So, somebody says glycine's giving them the runs. Well, I actually think just try connective tissue and muscle. Just try connective tissue like tendons and stuff, That's probably all you need. All right, guys, I'm going to jump off. Sauna, yes, love it. Dig sauna. There's good evidence from Stephen Genuis that lead, mercury, cadmium can be detoxed via sauna. Raw milk is going to get you calcium, but a lot of people, I think, are going to have issues with raw milk. All right, you guys, I am going to... I don't think I've really had keto rashes, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's oxalate dumping. I did a podcast with Sally Norton on my YouTube channel. Check that one out. We could talk about that more soon. But I think it's probably oxalates, actually, the keto rash. It'll clear up. All right, cool. Good to see all you guys. Stoked to see everybody here for so long. I'm going to roll and get out of this and do a little more work, but I will see you guys soon. Somebody's asking how old I am. You guys can guess. I've talked about it before. I'll tell you in a second. What do we got here? Everybody wants to be in my live video. People are loving the podcast. It's awesome. New podcast just came out, you guys, this week. We just released it. I'm just going to tell you, I am 41 years old. I promise, I'm 41. 41 years old. I don't know. Aging backwards, I guess. All right, you guys, I'm going to head out. I love it. Everybody has tons of comments. Somebody said 35. Nope, 41. But thank you. Somebody said 42. I'm not that old yet. All right, you guys, good to see you. Somebody says they want to hear me talk about how you treat SIBO and Candida at some point if you treat it. Yeah, I definitely treat it. I'll talk about it soon. All right, hope you guys like that stuff. I'll check you soon. Later.